the hands of Russian soldiers, they have turned into long-lasting hidden killers. They can lie in wait for a target on rooftops or tree branches and recharge during the day when sunlight is available. The radar has a detection range of up to 15 kilometers, which has helped the Russian military increase its interception rate of UAVs and FPVs to 70%. The Molniya is a kind of unmanned aircraft carrier that lifts 1 or 2 drones into the air. The main purpose of using Dragon drones was to sow fear. Ukrainian UAV logistics units are now suffering heavier losses than frontline infantry. Meanwhile, Russian drones with greater flight range are penetrating deeper and deeper into the rear. Today I have several reviews from the Western press about new Russian drones, weapons, and new methods of drone warfare. Of course, those of you who are interested in this topic have likely already heard about the use of various innovations at the front. That is why it will be even more interesting to read what journalists from at least neutral, and often unfriendly to Russia, countries are writing. First on the list is Sohu from China. Their article is titled, "It is truly interesting. After 3 years of the Ukrainian conflict, it turned out that the 3 most effective types of weapons are the ones that China also has." The 3-year Russian-Ukrainian conflict has completely overturned the established understanding of warfare. Initially, it was believed that high-tech equipment such as tank battalions and stealth fighters would determine the course of battle. But as the front line stretched for 1,000 kilometers and both sides became stuck in positional warfare, 3 things started to influence the battle. 2 of them are unremarkable, and no one associates them with military equipment. Yet, on the Russian-Ukrainian battlefield, these ordinary items destroyed the very concept of so-called high-level warfare. Let's start with solar panels. In China, these panels are used on rental bicycles, but in the hands of Russian soldiers, they have turned into long-lasting hidden killers, deeply worrying Ukrainian forces. This technology has transformed the made-in-China drones into truly effective weapons. The Russian army has long used kamikaze drones for raids deep into enemy territory as aerial delayed action mines. However, this tactic had a fatal flaw. Drones consumed power during flight, and while they were waiting for a target, their cameras and video transmission systems continued to run. The onboard batteries drained, and if power ran out before a target appeared, the drone became useless scrap. Russian soldiers came up with a simple modification. They added a palm-sized solar charging panel to the top of the drone. This device is no different from the panels used on rental bicycles in China. An investigation by American media showed that it costs only $50. Chinese consumers can easily find similar, even more powerful devices for less than 100 yuan on shopping apps. Thanks to this technology, drones can stay deep behind enemy lines for a long time, lying in wait for a target on rooftops or tree branches and recharging during the day if sunlight is available. The cameras and video transmission systems run entirely on solar energy, preserving battery charge for the final attack. American media suggested that these solar-powered invisible drones can fly several kilometers, settle down to recharge, and then continue long covert missions deep in hostile territory. Radars usually do not detect these low, slow, small targets. They can silently infiltrate air bases and command posts, essentially becoming a modern version of web trap ambush tactics. Solar panels have revolutionized the tactical use of drones. Another Chinese civilian device that directly affects a key aspect of drone warfare is the phased array radar used by farmers to prevent wild boars from entering their fields. Recently, Ukrainian Special Forces published a video showing an FPV drone being used to destroy a radar system at a Russian facility. A close examination of the model numbers revealed that the FSTHL-02 and FSTHD-03 systems were not military hardware at all, but agricultural radars made by a Chinese company. Their original purpose was to observe boars, birds, and other wildlife in fields to prevent crop damage. No one could have imagined that this readily available equipment would become an effective anti-drone weapon after being modified by Russian troops. Ukrainian intelligence reported that the agricultural radar has a detection range of up to 15 kilometers, which helped Russian forces increase the interception rate of FPV drones to 70%. More than 500 Ukrainian UAV losses have been recorded. The 22nd Anti-Aircraft Missile Regiment of the Russian Armed Forces has adopted this radar. After acquiring a target, the radar transmits data in real time, greatly improving the effectiveness of coordinated strikes. Those familiar with military affairs know that phased array radars have always been considered premium equipment. The American APY-1 system costs hundreds of millions of dollars, is so large it can only be installed on warships, and its deployment process is extremely complex. However, China has long used this technology in civilian applications. This agricultural radar only requires a simple tripod, has low power consumption, is lightweight, and costs only a few $100,000. Its software interface is very simple. It starts with a single button and can be operated by one person. Ukrainian soldiers report frequent loss of UAV signals during patrols. The loss rate has doubled compared to previous years, which they attribute to the effectiveness of this agricultural radar system. Western defense companies are shocked. Their air defense systems, built for hundreds of millions of dollars, are being outperformed by Chinese civilian equipment worth only a few $100,000. Next, we turn to people who have repeatedly suffered blows from Russia, Germany's Business Insider, and their article. Ukrainian soldiers report that Russian forces have deployed drone carriers at the front. Russia is using medium-sized drones to transport smaller, explosive-laden drones into the combat zone. This significantly increases range and strike radius, creating new, deadly problems for Ukrainian forces. Ukrainian soldiers gave detailed descriptions of Moscow's new tactic to Business Insider correspondents. According to them, a UAV called Molniya has appeared at the front, airplane-type drones used to deliver several smaller models. Typically, these are explosive-carrying quadcopters which have become the dominant force along the entire line of contact. Although the tactic itself is not entirely new, it still causes serious concern for the Ukrainian side. Russian drones are increasing their penetration depth across the front line and methodically striking targets. Previously, it was reported that Kremlin forces had already tested unmanned carrier systems, but Molniya, soldiers say, has only recently been spotted. A serviceman of the 4th Regiment of the Rangers Corps of Ukrainian Special Operations Forces told Business Insider that Molniya is a sort of unmanned aircraft carrier that lifts one or two other drones into the sky. Air launching them increases the potential strike radius. This Molniya performs two functions. It can be a strike drone itself or a mother drone. It can carry an explosive payload, but more often it's used only as a delivery platform, said the UAV operator, who, for security reasons, did not reveal his real name or rank, introducing himself by the call sign Predator. After the FPV drone successfully launches from the Molniya, it can continue flying toward a completely different target. There have been cases where this UAV carried an entire anti-tank mine, the soldier continued. They are extremely cheap to produce. They manufacture huge numbers of them. They use them whenever and however they want, he added. Here I must interrupt with a commentary from another publication, the Wall Street Journal, which tells a dramatic story. 4 Ukrainian soldiers were traveling along a supply route 30 kilometers from the front line when a Russian drone exploded right behind them, tossing the rear of their Nissan Pathfinder into the air. Captain Stanislav Durkach hit the dashboard and dislocated his kneecap. He and the 3 others hobbled into the forest and watched as a second Molniya aircraft-type drone destroyed their vehicle. Several months ago, this rear area was relatively safe. Now any movement can be attacked. I think we were very lucky, said Durkach, now in the hospital. Russia's progress in striking Ukrainian supply lines with drones is the most significant development in the conflict in 2025. According to Ukrainian military analysts studying the conflict, it is more important than the gradual advance of Russian troops. Neither Russia's Ministry of Defense nor the U.S. Embassy in Moscow responded to Business Insider's requests for comment. A commander of a Ukrainian UAV unit in northeastern Kharkiv region called the principle behind such drones a disposable repeater. They can fly tens of kilometers, drop small quadcopters from their wings, and these then operate autonomously. According to the officer, who also remained anonymous due to security, Russians use this tactic along the entire eastern border front, taking advantage of their advance deep into the country. Another Ukrainian soldier said he believes Russia does not yet have many Molniya drones and called the weapon experimental. He said Ukraine also has similar carrier drones capable of delivering 3 or even 4 FPV drones, but refused to specify how widely they are used, citing operational secrecy. Earlier, Ukraine revealed that naval drones were used to deliver FPVs into the Black Sea. Light quadcopters launched from the moving device to attack an oil platform then held by Russian troops. The appearance of strike drones like Molniya marked another turning point in innovation on the Ukrainian battlefield. This tactic further proves that UAVs have firmly entrenched themselves as an increasingly dominant offensive and defensive force. Warfare's changing. I wouldn't say every day, but every year, every 6 months for sure. They constantly try new tactics. We do the same, said Predator. Ukraine and Russia constantly try to outsmart each other in what officials describe as a game of cat and mouse. Each side tries to develop new military technologies before the other can counter them. Innovations often give one side an advantage only for a limited time, sometimes just a few months, until the opponent develops countermeasures. This was recently described by the Ukrainian Deputy Defense Minister for Innovation, former UAV Commander Colonel Yuri Marinenko. Predator concluded that Russia is modernizing its drones to make them more lethal. According to him, Moscow improves its equipment and electronic systems continuously, day and night. Earlier this month, the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense published combat footage showing interceptor drones shooting down several Molniyas over the battlefield. However, from the released videos, it remained unclear whether they managed to stop at least one mother drone. Now to the third item, and here, of course, the masters of stirring up conflict between everyone, the undisputed leaders in this field, the island caliphate of Great Britain. Their incorruptible truthful publication, The Sun produced a material titled Horrifying Sight, Russian Dragon Drone Attacks, Life Tunnels Used to Protect Ukrainian Roads from Kamikaze Drone Strikes. Author, James Scarry. A terrifying moment when a Russian Dragon drone unleashed a barrage of fire on a Ukrainian road in kamikaze style. The drone deliberately attacked road mesh tunnels, spewing a continuous stream of fire. At first, the fireballs acted slowly, breaking into separate clusters. Within seconds, the drone was already sowing chaos inside the mesh tunnel, shooting methodically along the entire covering. The rocket continued flying along the tunnel for a while until it burned it to the ground. The mesh road tunnels, also known as life tunnels, consist mostly of netting used to cover roads in conflict zones to protect vehicles from FPV drones. Dragon drones are UAVs capable of melting flesh. They are equipped with canisters of thermite, a mixture of aluminum and iron oxide, developed more than half a century ago for welding railway tracks. Thermite burns with such power and such high temperature that it destroys everything it touches. It is almost impossible to extinguish and stops burning only when the mixture is exhausted. Because thermite is extremely hot, such drones can also be used to ignite and destroy armored vehicles and tanks. Retired British Army officer Nicholas Drummond suggested the main purpose of using Dragon drones was to spread fear. "It's a very nasty thing," he told CNN. "Using a drone to deliver such a weapon is quite an innovative approach. But, in this method, the effect is more psychological than physical," he added. This is not the first time such drones have been used in the Ukrainian conflict. Kyiv itself uses this fearsome weapon to strike territory controlled by Moscow. Summing up, for nearly 4 years of the conflict, Ukraine had superiority in the use of combat drones, applying innovative tactics and technologies to compensate for Russia's manpower advantage. However, this autumn, Russian forces for the first time gained the upper hand in tactical drone warfare. Russia now outnumbers Ukraine in UAVs in key sectors of the front, while simultaneously employing improved tactics that cast doubt on Ukraine's ability to supply its frontline forces. If Ukrainian forces cannot counter Russia's enhanced capabilities, nothing good awaits Ukraine in terms of holding its positions in 2026. The shift in tactical balance also weakens Kyiv's diplomatic position. In Washington, influential members of the Trump administration insist on ending the conflict on terms favorable to Russia, arguing that Ukraine must accept them or face even worse conditions if it cannot continue fighting. Moscow changed its drone tactics in 2024 after Ukrainian troops entered Russia's Kursk region. A new unit called Rubicon assembled the best Russian UAV operators and began attacking Ukrainian supply lines in the region. Rubicon used fiber optic drones connected to the operator by a long cable to avoid electronic warfare interference. Due to supply problems, Ukraine failed to hold its positions in the Kursk region, leading to a chaotic and bloody retreat in spring this year. The Rubicon unit expanded. The weapons and tactics used in the Kursk region were transferred to the East Ukrainian front. At the same time, Rubicon fighters trained operators from other Russian UAV units. We made an entire video about Rubicon. It's on this channel. Go watch it, where it came from, and what this special unit is. Ukrainian officers said Rubicon focuses on medium-range targets, usually at least 20 kilometers from the front line, bypassing Ukrainian infantry. They have two main tasks, disrupting our logistics and targeting our drone operators, said Yuri Fedorenko, commander of the Ukrainian 429th UAV Regiment Achilles. Konrad Muzyka, director of Poland's Rowe Consulting Military Analysis Company, said Ukrainian logistics and UAV units are now suffering heavier losses than infantry. He noted that partly this is because infantry numbers are very low. Losses force Ukrainian drone operators to launch FPVs from more distant positions, reducing attack range. Meanwhile, Russian drones with greater endurance are penetrating deeper into the rear. Russian forces have surpassed Ukrainian ones in medium-range strikes, said George Barros, analyst at the Institute for the Study of War in Washington. They intercept targets 40 to 70 kilometers from the front line. Before piloted aircraft were needed for this. Ukrainian FPVs still inflict damage in the last 20 kilometers that Russians must cross to reach the front line, but Ukraine lacks weapons to strike Russian supply lines, command posts, and rear targets. The engagement zone has shifted deeper behind Ukraine's lines than behind Russia's because Russia improved its capabilities, noted Rob Lee, senior fellow at the Foreign Policy Research Institute in Philadelphia. The battle for Krasnoarmysk in eastern DPR showed how Russia gained an advantage in tactical drone use. Ukrainian soldiers who fought there said that Russian drones in the area now outnumber Ukrainian UAV systems 10 to 1. For 18 months, Russian forces have tried to take Krasnoarmysk, once home to 60,000 people. Most of the town is now a gray zone. Neither side controls it, and positions are scattered throughout. Soldiers on both sides hide in ruins, often unaware of the enemy's location. What worries Ukrainian soldiers most is that Russian drones with longer range can strike their supply lines in Krasnoarmysk from distances up to 60 kilometers. An officer from the 68th Brigade defending the town said the roads are so dangerous that Ukrainian troops cover the last 15 kilometers on foot. Besides fiber optic drones, Russian units use inset airplane-type drones with a 40-kilometer range and increasing numbers of cheap Molniya models. According to UAV commander Yuri Fedorenko, these are simple but effective. Molniyas can detonate their own warhead or carry 2 or 3 FPV drones, increasing their range. Sometimes FPVs then attack Ukrainians from the rear. When we see a drone flying from the front line, we think it's one of ours. So it's easy to get confused, Fedorenko said. Ukraine, which has its own UAVs, is trying to regain its advantage. Some Ukrainian officers say their drone forces must focus more on destroying Russian UAVs and supply lines following Rubicon's tactics rather than concentrating on Russian infantry. Our main problem is resources. Russia's advantage is not technology, but scale, said the head of the UAV forces of Ukraine's Second Corps, known by the call sign Volt. Friends, if you enjoyed this, please like it. Don't forget to share the link on your social networks. This is important for the channel's growth. If you're watching us, you like the content, but you're still not subscribed. Feel free to hit the bell to receive notifications about new episodes. In any case, subscribed or not, I expect your comments on what you heard.